Hey, welcome to the Tigers Halftime Breakdown Podcast. We're here to talk about great Auburn sports and most of all, great football. Let's get to it.
Welcome to the Tigers Halftime Breakdown Podcast. And with me this week, as always, Auburn superfan Tom Dunnam. My name is David Kashmer. I'm your podcast co-host. And this week, special guest co-host Sebastian Jones. Sebastian, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the group and just let us know what's up.
Awesome. Hey, I'm happy to be here. It's nice to meet you guys, Tom. I've been a friend of yours for a long time. Just really thrilled to be here. I currently am a student here with Tom, somewhat different things, but I work in sports production for the university. Formerly, I now co-host Kicking on the Plains for Barstool Auburn, and part-time at 95.9 Tiger Communications here in Auburn. I board out for the Sports Call Show, and I am hosting later this week. So I'm just thrilled to be on here to talk some ball with you guys.
Hey, Tom, he's classing us up. You brought Seabass. He's classing us up, bringing the optional view. We're welcome.
He is the best Tiger man.
Yeah, we're glad to have him with us. Guys, here's what we're going to talk about this session, just so all the listeners can hear us. We're going to talk about Auburn football's upcoming game, of course. Tom did a great job last week covering ULM and the matchup. We'll talk about it just a little bit more. We're definitely going to focus on Auburn's significant win over Houston on the road. Well done. And then NFL Week 11 highlights, key matchups, what's coming down the pike, and fantasy football insights. That includes waiver wire pickups, who needs to be sat, who needs to start. And then we're going to go from there for this episode. So with that, let's get to it. Tom and Seabass, what do you think about this ULM matchup?
As many struggles as this Auburn team has had, ULM doesn't pose a lot of questions that haven't already been answered at some point throughout the season. The one thing that Auburn does do well is run the ball. ULM doesn't exactly show that they can stop the rush against a team like Auburn. They've lost their last three against the likes of South Alabama, Marshall, and Texas State. In a couple of those games, two of them really, they lost by 3 possessions or more, 3 touchdowns or more. They run the ball well, but not better than teams that Auburn has seen so far. They're not going to have a better offensive line and rushing attacks than a Georgia or even a Kentucky that Auburn's seen already. Ahmad Hardy, their starting running back, has run for 916 yards this season. But again, it's against the likes of a Sun Belt West conference, which isn't particularly strong in regards to an SEC schedule. So I think the Tigers defensive line is going to have a good day. But again, as a 25-point favorite, you can't sleepwalk into a game, especially when you don't know the taste of winning. I think that's the biggest problem for this Auburn team is it's not about playing well. They've shown that they can play well in some of these games that they've come up short, and statistically they're good. Against Vanderbilt, they had 100 more yards of offense. Still found a way to lose that. Yeah, exactly. So I think it's more about tasting win and really feeling what it's like to win and closing out a game to get back on track. And because this team hasn't done that, 24.5 points doesn't feel like as much as it probably should.
Why don't you tell us, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think 24.5 is enough points, but I don't think Auburn's proven so far this season that they can be trusted to really win a game against a team that they should beat. You've seen time and time again against the likes of a Cal in Arkansas, a Missouri, a Vanderbilt, that this team has what it takes to win, and they are the better team on the field, and they go out and they show it at times, but they make mistakes, they turn the ball over. I don't really know how it's hard to fathom. If you were to only show me the box scores from the games this year and not the final score, I would say Auburn's probably sitting at about 5-3, maybe, in pretty good spot to reach a good bowl game this year. But I don't think they can be trusted to win a game until they really do it. So I do think they'll win, but I don't think 24.5 points is out of the question for ULM to cover, especially with the team that does what they do as well as they do. And a team that says, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do it well enough to where you can't stop it enough times. They're on a little bit of a skid. They'll be up for a game in Jordan-Hare Stadium.
I think they're also 11-8, number 8 down 4.
Yeah. Even if it's not the big game I felt like it was as a must win for any bowl hopes, it sounds like y'all feel that the spread and The line on it's pretty reasonable. Sounds like no new questions for the Auburn team, or ones that haven't been answered yet. So from the football game this weekend to basketball coming up during the week and the recent win over Houston, let's talk about it. Gentlemen, what do you think? The Houston Cougars defeated by Auburn on their Toyota Center court.
If you watch the game, you understand it's basketball to the low. And if you don't, which a lot of Auburn fans haven't had the blessing that Tom and I have had to be able to see a really good Auburn basketball team. I remember last year us camping out for a couple games. Yeah, we were sleeping in a tent together in 20-degree weather out in front of Neville Arena. If for some Auburn fans, some older Auburn fans that know Auburn is strictly a football school and occasionally have a good baseball team, you might not understand how high of a level Auburn basketball is really playing. This isn't just a flash in the pan. Hey, you've got a couple good players. This has been a consistent kind of modus operandi of Auburn basketball over the last 6-7 years, really since 2019. So I guess it has been 5-6 years. This is the sixth season, counting that one. This team is really playing at a high level and returning performance this year. There were a couple transfers that did go out. If you're more of a casual fan, the KD Johnsons, the left, the Aiden Holloway's left, but they've been replaced by players that are more capable. Again, no hate to KD Johnson, hate to Aiden Holloway. And this system has proven now that they can go on the road, which is what it was against Houston. It was a road game. They played in Houston. They played at the Toyota Center, home of Jabari Smith, by the way, Auburn legend. They played a road game. And if you go back and watch that tape in basketball, you'll see that this was a really high level basketball game. Both of these teams, when they went into it, were number 1 and number 2 in KenPom. I think they are still number 1 and number 2.
Oh, you're number 1.
And they fell to number 2. So if you know anything about KenPom, is a ranking systems that is based for college basketball, based solely off of analytics. So it ranks your adjusted offense and adjusted defensive efficiency. And it's basically how well can you perform against the average on a per possession standard against your opponents. And it does factor in a little bit how good you are, but really it factors in on how well you are against them. And Auburn and Houston in this adjusted offensive and defensive efficiency ranking system were number 1 and number 2. So a lot of analysts had this game highlighted as what could be a really good game. And what they got was exactly that. This was a tournament game, Tom. From the jump, the intensity, I think the announcer said something about first team to 50 might win this game because of how good both defenses played. They were all flying around. The defensive shifts that both teams had in man to play help defense was incredible. It was a great game, and it really saw the birth of the next Auburn breakout star, Tahad Pettiford. Janai Broom did his usual. He had 20 points and I think almost 10 rebounds. Chaney Johnson had a good game besides his missed 2-hand dunk that he had in the second half. That was bad. He was the Division II players now played up, but Houston has one of the best defenses in the country. Kelvin Sampson does a great job. And Auburn went in and scored 74 points against Houston on the road. It is an accomplishment, and they proved they can play on the same level. And I think I would not have been surprised if Auburn lost this game early, and I wouldn't have been mad. And I went into this game thinking I wanted to be a close game, win or lose, and I want to see where the team is. The fact that they won against a team like this, it bodes really well for the rest of the season.
I'll bring points on that first.
And Tom, thoughts on that big Houston Auburn game? What do you think?
I want to piggyback off two points on two players that Seabass made. Chaney Johnson came from Division II school, UAH in Huntsville. He struggled early on last year, really came on in the SEC tournament, and the NCAA tournament. But the Chaney Johnson this year, instant fan favorite, spark plug, does the little things, and he's just down low, being gritty, scoring the ball, gets stepped right in. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up, Tahad came in the second half. I think it was roughly 15 and a half minutes left in the game, and he left with 8 seconds left when Bruce went with a heavy defensive set to defend against a 3. But the look in Tahad's eyes gave me memories of one player, Kobe Bryant. Just the look in that kid's eyes down the stretch, taking over that game. Lockdown defense, doing all the right things. And that's something we were missing last year. We didn't have that dome.
A lot of intensity in the Houston game, like you said, especially down the stretch. And now we're going from that to Kent State. So what's your quick preview on the upcoming Kent State game on Wednesday?
That's like with Vermont. Bruce said they were and they have won at least a share of their conference, I think, the last 8 years. They made the last 3 NCAA tournaments. I figured we'd win that game, but I figured it might be a little bit closer than it was. I wasn't expecting a 50-point blowout win. Also, I want to bring it up on that UNA game. I think it might have been Rothstein I saw that posted it. UNA might be sneaky good. But it could be one of those trap games. But when you're looking ahead to Maui, a game like that is just one of those. Obviously, I think we'll win, but it's just one of those you don't want to overlook it, like you said.
Come on down to halftime. If you haven't been in there before, let me tell you, it's all about great sports. Sports every day, sports all year round, Auburn sports, professional sports, you name it. If it's great sports, it's halftime. Come on down and be there.
And with that, gentlemen, let's talk a little bit about this Maui Invitational coming up. Just one more test for the Tigers, and it looks to just be exciting basketball for us to watch as fans. Tom, what do you think of the Maui Invitational?
The first game we play is against Iowa State. A very tough matchup for us. Shoot the 3-ball there.
All right, specials. Let's talk about specials. You want to talk about special? You got 75-cent wings on Wednesday. That's at halftime. You want to talk about special? You had $6 bottles of wine on Thursday. That's like a turkey with 6 or 7 legs. You just can't beat those kinds of specials while the TV and the sports are playing all your favorites. That's all at halftime. Now let's get back to the podcast.
We defend very well on the perimeter. We're obviously very good on defense. And then, of course, I think that'll be one of those games where it's feed you night. Maybe the best Maui field we've seen since the year we played Duke in Maui. We're looking ahead to Purdue, Ohio State, Duke, and Cameron indoor, baby. Also on that note, tickets have somewhat went down a little bit. That might be a trip, but that goes for
Sounds like the Maui Invitational is just going to be more great basketball for us as Auburn fans to watch. I'm really looking forward to it. It's coming up so fast. It's amazing how quick the beginning of the season goes to get there, and it's just going to be some great matchups. Really look forward to it.
You want to talk about your best commentary for pro and collegiate sports, particularly Auburn? You found the right place. This is the Tigers Halftime Breakdown. You come here when you want to know all about fantasy sports, who to start this week, who to sit, and what to do as you promote your great football team. Now let's get to it. Get to the podcast.
Early basketball season with a lot of questions left, but just a great looking team. Let's transition over to the NFL Week 11. We're changing storylines, I know, going from collegiate basketball to the pros, but I think it's worthwhile because there are just so many interesting games coming up this week. Let's just talk about it briefly. Tom, let's get your thoughts. Green Bay versus the Bears. What do you think about this big NFC North rivalry game?
The Bears are having obvious struggles on the offensive line. Caleb Williams is getting killed 5 or 6 times a game every time he drops back. Green Bay is obviously really good. Jordan Love's hitting a groove. Green Bay beat.
Yeah, it's a big weekend in sports coming up, and there are just a lot of other great games and storylines. You got the Ravens Steelers coming up. Seabass, any thoughts on what's coming up with Lamar and the Steelers with the newly reinvigorated quarterback position? Wilson with a lot of veteran moves, including at the end of the recent game, the offsides call that he provokes to end the game, does the dance, makes ESPN. It's a different Russell Wilson than we saw with the Broncos. What a difference changing.
I brought it up last week. He's looking more Seattle Russ and Denver Russ.
100%. Yeah. A lot of great storylines in the NFL. And then, Tom, what do you think? Kansas City remains undefeated versus the Bills or finally gets its first loss?
It's in Buffalo, right? Pretty sure it's in Buffalo. They've been to a loss. There's been several games this year they should have lost already, but they didn't. They just win. But Josh Allen in Buffalo.
All right, you heard it here. This Uncle Tom, this is the week for the Chiefs losses. Just so many interesting NFL midseason takeaways. And I think we would be remiss if we didn't just talk about the Lions a little bit. What a team this year.
America's team.
On tap for the Lions. Go ahead, Tom.
The Lions, they're just America's team. I mean, how can you not love them? How can you not love to see them have success? How can you not love Dan Campbell?
Yeah.
I won one.
Yep. And the human story with coach losing his home to people getting on him and just all the storylines you've seen coming out of Detroit. You really got to hope that franchise maintains it because they've had such a difficult history.
And also the players you can obviously tell they love playing for Dan Campbell.
Yeah.
Just a genuine good guy.
Over to the fantasy football corner and let's share some of our thoughts on week 11 waiver wire recommendations and what to do with them. Gentlemen, what are your recommendations on the waiver wire?
I'm cooking some for us, right?
Bo Nix, Auburn, and of course the Oregon Ducks legend too. He has scored at least 20 points in 4 of his last 6 games. He's actually a starter. He's actually my starter in my biggest paid league that I'm hoping to win for the payout. It's been paying dividends. I've won 3 in a row with Bo Nix's help.
Gentlemen, this has been just a great conversation about the collegiate level with our beloved Auburn and basketball season. So far, it's just been great to watch as a fan, and I think the progress has really shown itself. It's a great mix of older and younger talent, just like you guys said. So far, so interesting, and look forward to the game this week. I think you covered nicely some of the Auburn football thoughts coming up for ULM, and it sounds that a lot of the questions have already been answered by the Auburn team. This one might not add much, but as a fan, it's sure still going to be great to watch. And then last, the NFL Week 11 takes, including sit, stay, and plans, and what we should be doing with our fantasy teams. It's always appreciated by me, the insight from Tom, and now this week, Seabass. Welcome addition to the program. So with that, gentlemen, I've appreciated your time today. I'm sure all the listeners have, and I'll say to you this on the way out. War Eagle, I'm looking forward to this week.
Well, hey, thanks for joining us on the Tigers Halftime Breakdown. We really appreciate your time today. We look forward to having you as a guest next time. We look forward to having you as a listener. You have a great day, and we'll see you soon